This episode of The Modern Man is sponsored by Addo Global.
You can't be shiny object. You can't be like trend over here, trend over here, trend over here. I'm going to try this, or that didn't work, I'm going to go over here. You really have to invest yourself and your time to commit to see if it really works. Not just for you, not just for the brand, but for the consumer. I mean, there's a lot of things that play into that, and a lot of it's just patience.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of The Modern Man. It's a pleasure to have you, and it's a pleasure to be out here outside at Camaraderie Co-work, right off of the Swamp Rabbit Trail and just outside of downtown Greenville. Before we jump into today's episode, I want to say thank you to our show sponsor, Addo Global. They continue to provide their clients with competitive prices for PPE, medical supplies, and so much more, something that's especially needed during this pandemic. Now, before we jump into today's subject, I want to introduce our panelists, but first our guest panelist, a former guest, Nate Cox. How you doing, brother?
Good, how you?
I'm doing good. It's good
Appreciate
to have
you.
you.
Hey, glad
And
to
to
be
my
here.
far right, we have Charles Rust, usual suspect, panelist here. And I'm excited to introduce our guest, David Hawkins of My PR Lab.
Thank you.
Joining us today on Modern Man. How you doing?
I'm feeling my most modernist, my most manist. I'm like ready to throw it down. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. We're about to hop into everything, but I want to introduce you to our audience first and give them a chance to know who you are and what it is you do.
So I'm David Hawkins, and I run My PR Lab, which is a non-traditional PR and marketing company here in Greenville. We focus on anything that's consumer focused. So if you can sell it, buy it, eat it, drink it, throw it away. We are your people to get it out into the hands of those consumers. We also work at events when events start popping back off, so keep us in mind when the COVID starts dying down. But yeah, it's primarily we work with small businesses in the upstate. We've gotten out a little bit, just depending on what our needs are and kind of where the requests are. But our bread and butter is small businesses here in the upstate.
Absolutely. And that works so well with today's topic about branding and men developing their brand. And just looking at the panel and all of us sitting up here, I can honestly say each person up here has a brand and they've developed it well. My first question to you is, do you think every man is a brand in their own right? And why is it so important?
So I wonder where the line between brand and personality, like where is that? Like where's the delineation? Where's too much personality in your brand? Where's too much brand in your personality? To me, it's very difficult to delineate the two. I'm a big personality. I'm confident in myself, but it took me a long time to get there, so I'm proud of it. I'm proud of that personality. I'm proud of the brand. So a lot of people, I say that my company's non-traditional. I'm a non-traditional guy. It should be no surprise to people that that the work that I do is creative and off the wall and non-traditional in that sense. So I think that every person does have a brand. It's just a matter of getting really aligned and really truthful about who you are, so that the best versions of that can come through in the brand.
I think that's so true, because when you say truthful and whatnot, I think a lot of times we get caught doing things that don't match our personality.
Yeah.
And I mean, I could talk about when I was working at a law firm, sitting in a cubicle, logging hours. That was not my brand. That was not my personality. What are some of the pitfalls men fall into if they're doing something that doesn't speak to their brand or their personality?
I think trends are really hard, because trends make it seem like we're supposed to be doing them, or they're like, just because they're popular for everybody else, that we should be aligned in that, and that's not necessarily the case. Again, it's got to be truthful. You have to go home and you have to put your head on your pillow at night, and whether it's at work or whether it's at home, it's impossible. Here's the other thing. People are not stupid. Consumers are not stupid. They can smell bull whatever a mile away. And if you're trying to play to a trend, or if you're trying to play to hyper-masculine when you might not be, of course, that's something that I could never do, and certainly I've tried. If you're trying to play to something that's just so foreign to your natural organic DNA, then people are going to see that. So I think it's about being honest. Our word today should probably be truthful or honesty, but that's not easy. You know, being truthful in yourself is a path. It's a constantly evolving chore or effort that I think everyone should aspire to. But I think it's essential if you do want to identify your brand. You've got to know your strengths, your weaknesses, what makes you weird, what makes you boring. You really have to know the full comprehensive version of yourself to find your brand.
Well, I'd ask a question, me not being an expert, on in this area. Do you delineate between PR and marketing?
Oh, Thank you so much. Oh, I love this question. So a lot of times people group PR, marketing, Google, social media, it all gets kind of grouped together, and sometimes it should, for certain reasons. So the best way that I can describe PR, and thanks again for asking, we are the liaisons between members of editorial media. So take, for example, Ted works at Fox News. He does not sell ads at Fox. He delivers news at Fox. So a lot of times I will deliver him a pitch that we have developed with him in mind, delivering it to his audience. So we cater it to the morning show. We cater it to interests that Ted might have or align with. And we don't ever pay for our content to be on air or in a magazine or in a newspaper. When you work with us, we get you the content, not the distraction of an ad. Does that make sense?
It does, and it does, but I do think there's a very difficult line for the average business person to understand. Being the one with the hat on, and you have to do all that. For someone to understand what PR versus marketing, would you consider PR a subset of marketing?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, PR is like there's marketing, and then there's all the little kind of like drop downs to it. To me, obviously, I think PR is the most valuable because it's your story. And it's being told through the lens or through the avenue of the consumer that you're trying to reach. So a lot of people, they know that their audience is Town magazine. Well, how do they get in town? They can either buy an ad for $10,000, which people are going to flip through, or buy an ad on Fox News, which that's when they walk their dog, or that's when they go to the bathroom, then the commercial comes on. Or you can work with someone like me who finds and braids in organically your content with actual news that's being dropped on people's doorstep, that people have adopted in to receive, that people have signed up for. This is not spam. This is not something that's coming out of nowhere. They want that news. They want to align with that culture of whatever media organization that is. And so finding someone like me who knows how to get you in those mediums is, to me, the most effective way.
I think that's so important too, because my dad used to always tell me, your reputation is everything.
Yeah.
And he used to say, whether you don't think anyone's watching, someone's always watching. And it
especially in this day and age.
Yeah. And the way we carry ourselves is really how we get noticed. And I think I want to kind of advert that point towards Nate, because I notice as someone who has built your brand by the way you carry yourself, if that makes sense. It's like your reputation precedes you, where I know as a DJ, referrals are probably huge.
Right.
So by doing a good job and showing up in a professional manner, that helps you move forward. How important was it for you to kind of like build that presence, and is like branding something that's been on your mind from the get-go as you kind of developed yourself?
Yeah, branding is always something that, especially being in the entertainment business, that people say, you got to build your brand, you got to build your brand. But if you don't know what that is, then you might fall into a trend and then try to follow a trend, and then next thing you know, you're exposed, because that's not you, that's a trend. And so I've finding that, okay, I've got to be true to myself. What am I doing? And telling my story, but also letting people know what my business is. That's like the kind of thing that I would, that I'm trying to figure out, doing research, trying to figure out by myself. But that would be something that I will go to a PR person about, like, hey, look, this is what I do, how could you help me? But it's trying to stay away from falling into a trend, or not being my genuine self, because I'm trying to be something that's cool right now. Because like I said, it's happened. I've seen it happen to people. They try to do something to fit in, to try to get more exposure, and then when that thing's over, then what are they left?
Yeah, where do they go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's a really short-sighted approach if you just want to get on the trend thing, or the bandwagon thing. And to me, it's like, I want to be the person that created the trend. Like, I want to be the trend setter. I want to be so ahead of the curve, or I want to be looking so far ahead, thinking so far outside of the box that it's a shock to begin with, and then it becomes normalcy.
And the kind of
that's
trends,
magic. It doesn't happen every day. It's PR magic when it does happen.
Yeah, and I want to kind of like translate for the viewers, because what a lot of people don't understand is, your brand becomes something that is part of your personality, or it's part of what people identify with you. For example, Charles is always wearing those hats. Charles always is swagged out. He'll even tell you, the drip don't drown.
Hashtag.
before we came recording, our one friend was like, "Oh, Charles is coming up." He's like, "He's probably wearing fur." We say that as a joke, but Charles has that reputation of wearing the hats and coming dressed to the nines. That's part of his brand. And I think it's important for folks at home to understand, like, when you embrace that about yourself, whatever it be, maybe you love fashion, you know, maybe you love horses, right? And you just love horses, you love equestrianship, and I don't know if that's
Equestrianship?
Equestrianship.
It is for
Ted,
today.
Ted, you about to get me in trouble now. You about to get me in trouble. That's the fact. Baby, he don't know. Crystal,
You went on there and let him say equestrianship?
he don't know better yet.
I gotta go see Crystal and get corrected on that. But whatever it is you love, that becomes part of your brand. It becomes how people identify with you. What are some of the barriers that might stop some folks from, I guess, embracing that? I mentioned equestrian because, you know, that might be, obviously we're aiming this towards men with them in mind. You know, they might think that they might get judged for that. Or, I mean, shoot, sometimes Jess will be watching The Bachelor. I'm like, he did what now? Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
No, he didn't.
Don't get me started on that. That's a whole different conversation.
So I have a lot of gratitude looking back on the time where I was in middle school and high school now, but it was brutal when I was there. I was extremely gay kid, as I am extremely a gay adult now. But it was in the 90s in a really conservative small town in South Carolina. And it forced me. I wanted so hard to be y'all. Like, I wanted so much to, like, walk like a straight guy, talk like a straight guy, be a straight guy. I wanted to assimilate. I wanted to camouflage. I wanted to fit in so much. And I couldn't understand why my mannerisms or the way I talked. I thought that I was talking just like you guys. Like, it was just me. It was just y'all. And it forced me to realize that I am different. And that's okay. Being different is what makes me stand out. A lot of people laugh because my mannerisms are dramatic and I'm gregarious and I fill up a room. I would never want to change that now. I would never want to dim that shine. I would never want to, be a wallflower or not be noticed or seen. And the only way that you can do that, whether it's in your personality or if it's your brand, is to have really let some of those insecurities bubble up, face them head on, and love them, keep them, or address them and fix them.
I love that.
I got to go back to one thing though. Like when you're talking about trends, because it really would fascinate me with Nate and trends. If you think about music, and especially trends in you building your brand, who you are. You know, you're known in the upstate as Nate C. the Chief, but this club wants this certain type of music this certain day, and it's not your thing. First, do you take the gig?
Good question.
And then second, when this new trendy music comes out, it's still not your style. Like you're an 80s baby. You like what you like. You play the way you play. But trendy is what sells in clubs. How do you take that as part of your brand, and then talking about playing different types of music, which may not really be your thing, if you will?
So the way I approach, so I'm a DJ and I'm also a music producer. Okay, so I make my own music, but I also DJ out in bars, clubs, restaurants, and stuff like that. So I have to approach it totally different, you know. So, but even when I do that, like, you know, when I go to a place and, you know, there's certain things that I don't do because it's just not me. There's certain songs that I'm just not going to play because it's just not me. I don't. What's one song I could?
Yeah, I want to know. I'm
okay,
so curious.
I'll pick one.
What's a song that you literally say like no?
What's that song goes? Oh, Country Roads Take Me Home, West Virginia.
Oh yeah.
Won't play that song.
John Denver.
Won't play it.
Why not?
It's not me.
No
It's not
matter
me.
what.
Not me. I'm not playing it.
I almost had to take my hat off, but I ain't gonna do it.
Okay, so you know it's not me. It's not the vibe I'm going to set. If it's like, you know, if there's a DJ that DJs the next night, and that's his thing, and he loves to play that type of stuff and get people going in that way, great. It's not going to be me, you know. But you know, so you know, when the new trendy music comes along, a lot of stuff. You know, I play a lot of top 40 music, pop music, hip hop music. So when a lot of the new trendy songs come on, I'll play them, and then I'll get back to stuff that I like, and then get back to stuff that other people like, you know. But just when you walk into a room and you see me, I want you to know that this is the vibe that you're gonna get. Okay, you're not gonna walk in and it's like, oh, that's that Chief guy, and this is what vibe I'm gonna get, and then all of a sudden, I drop Copperhead Road, and it's like, wait a minute, this isn't what he normally plays, and because this is a song that I don't really get down with, and that's not the vibe I want you to get when you see me.
So I got a follow up then to that.
All right.
When you're in a club and you're playing music, is it I'm watching the crowd and I'm feeling the crowd and I want to take them the direction they want to go, or is it I'm gonna set the vibe and the crowd that's here wants the vibe that I set?
So who's influencing who?
Okay. Yeah. So as a DJ, as a
You said that a
working
lot better than
DJ,
me.
yeah, as
your publicist.
as a working DJ, the people are gonna come and they're gonna vibe to certain things, and a lot of times, so that we call that reading the room. So if they're vibing to this, then I'ma stick to this. So I'm gonna give them what I think they want, and I'm gonna also give them what they didn't know they wanted.
Oh, I like that.
So it's like, I'm gonna give you, okay, you want this song that just came out 2 weeks ago? Fine, I'm gonna give that to you. Matter of fact, I'm gonna give you another one. And then after that, I'm gonna give you a song that came out in the early 2000s. Everybody knows.
Spice Girls.
Okay. That works.
That would be mine.
All right.
That would be like if
Yeah,
someone
work.
dropped Spice Girls in the middle of like a whatever, club, I would be like, this is my DJ.
All right, so cool. So you said if I just drop Spice Girls,
Yeah.
right? What if you're listening to the new Dua Lipa song or something like
Love
that?
her too.
And then all of a sudden, you didn't even know it was coming, and Wannabe comes on. And it's like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? So
I'm
instead
gonna follow you on Insta.
Yeah.
I'm gonna follow you on TikTok. I'm gonna follow where you go.
So, especially when I get requests. So if people are like, hey, can you play this song?
Well,
And I'm like,
can I ask you a question? Is that appropriate?
It's very appropriate.
Is it?
We'll,
Okay.
We'll get back to that. But
Okay, all right.
Okay. But it's like, people say, I want to hear this song. And I'm like, okay, I got you. And then and if I know that it's going to be a minute, I'll tell people, give me a minute and I'll get to it.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't really, I want to hear my song and I want to hear it now.
Oh.
That's not appropriate.
Okay.
If you want to hear it now, go outside and listen to it on your phone.
There you go.
There you go.
So
if you could work it in, that's
fair.
appreciated.
Because they're not in your universe. Like, I can't smell the room. I'm just in there doing my thing. I don't feel the vibe. So you're not gonna disrupt my vibe with your request.
Right.
It's not you're not going in my direction.
Yeah.
So I'm just making sure I'm understanding what you're saying.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
when I'm
like-
going in my direction.
yeah, if I'm going to your directions, I got you.
Yeah.
Next.
So I hear a lot of trends coming in here because two things from what David said and what you said. David said, I am different and that's okay, right? And you said, it's not me. So there's a huge awareness of who you are. And for anyone who's watching who might be in that realm where they haven't locked in on their brand yet, how does that exploration start of finding where you are? Because even that question that Charles asked, and you articulated perfectly, he did say it better than you, man. I'm not gonna lie. But who's influencing who? Do you influence your environment, or does the environment influence you? And I imagine that there's a bit of both, but I kind of would like to unpack that thought process of how do we find who we are in a certain environment and then let that flourish?
For me, it really had a lot to do with overcoming all the things about my sexuality or my mannerisms or how I thought that I was supposed to be or how I could assimilate easiest to just because you realize that you're gay or you're effeminate doesn't necessarily mean overnight that you're okay with it. Then you've realized the truth, right? Like, you're not y'all. I'm not a football playing jock that can walk around and totally pass as straight. Just because I get to that truth doesn't mean that I want it. Doesn't mean that it's landed and I'm okay with it and I'm going to wake up tomorrow and just be completely great with it. It's a process to it. And I think I had to really find the elements of my mannerisms or of my, how I talk and how I act that make me happy and that make others happy. People like that. I think people laugh a lot with me and at me maybe, but at this point, as long as they're laughing, then I feel really strong in it. So I think that there's a path to it, and it's all about being honest with yourself and being sometimes honest about the things that, My mom calls them shadow things, like things that you would put in the shadow, that would live in the shadow unless you shine light on it. And so unless you really start to look at that shadow piece, I don't think that anyone's going to have a truthful or an effective brand, because it's not going to be comprehensive. It's going to be fractioned.
Well, like Ted, here's my favorite thing, and I think because you have a relationship with these guys too, with Colin, I think, with GQ, right? So every twice a year, and it's only twice a year, GQ comes out with their style issue, right? The style issue always has like, and they changed it the past 2 years. Not really a total fan of the change, but it used to always be the top 10 trends, right? So I used to go through there. The day it came out, I get it, because I wanted to see what it was, because you got about 2 months till that season hits. So the spring is about 2 months, summer is about 2 months before spring, so I get it. But what I've always done, and I think it applies to everything now that I'm sitting here listening, I call it trend to blend, right?
Trend to blend, I like that a lot.
I'll only go, thanks, I got him that time. I got
Good. Yeah.
I've been listening. But I look for these trends, and out of those 10 trends, there might be 4 of them that I like. Like, recently they went back to bigger silhouettes on clothes, baggier clothes. I don't like that. Like the way the suits look, it's not for me, don't like it. It's not something that I would do long term. Yeah. So any trend that I wouldn't keep with me long term, I don't take. But I might see some stuff and I'll be like, okay, I want some new pieces. I like that trend. Even if it's out of style, I would still wear it. Like if you look at what I have on now, man, how long they been wearing the lumberjack shirt? That's old school, right? These were super cool 3-4 years ago, but there's different levels that I found. I was like, I like that. I'll keep it.
Here's the thing, though. No matter, you can wear whatever. It's your swag level that matters on anything. If you walk into a room like this, I cannot not feel like a freaking rock star in this coat. I found it at a vintage store. It was far too expensive. I put it on like 3 credit cards at the same time. This was a couple years ago, and I was not making the kind of money that that I am now. And so it was like literally like a thing for me to get this jacket. But I've always wanted like the perfect fitting leather jacket. And for a smaller frame guy, it was always kind of hard for me to get it. So I always feel my most swag in this. One of the reasons why I wore it today, feel a modern man. So I think it's I love the choosing the trends. No one wants to see someone that's got all the trends on. That's like extra to the next level. But I definitely think that there's having your personal swag, your personal confidence, your items or pieces, whether it's wardrobe or whether it's music that you listen to in the morning or whether it's a mantra or a prayer that you say, like you've got your things that keep your swag level high. Mm-hmm. And I mean, no one can really mess with you when your swag's high.
Yeah.
And I just want to finish what I was saying to answer your question. Who influences who? Well, I do get influenced externally. We all do. We all have these little, so I'll take those little pieces. Maybe there's only 2. Some years I go through the book and there's nothing that fits me, that fits my style. The hats that you say I wear, they're made by my uncle who's 67 years old.
That's so cool though.
It's old, yeah, but I'm saying it's an older school thing, but it's me. So this is me. So I influence the world by this is my thing. I give influence. People like hats. People see hats. They want hats because they see me. But a lot of pieces that I found from her thing. So I don't think we're exclusive from getting influence from external places as long as they're good and they fit us. Don't accept it to fit in. Accept what fits who you already are, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. What influences you the most, or do you have more of the influence on your surroundings?
I feel like it's a lot of both. So especially with music, a lot of things that go on in the world today influences music, and so I'm always grabbing from here and from there. Like some stuff I don't really, some stuff I might play, but some stuff I just don't really get down with. I don't really, a message that a song might put out, I don't really, vibe with that message. So I, sometimes I won't play it. So
Talk about WAP.
Well, you was about to get to my question on.
Okay, so I play that. I play that. But yeah, I mean, like some things that when we're talking about music that does influence me, and if I know that might not be the #1 song out right now, like that's the song that I'm going to play, and then it never fails. Like I'll play a song that I like, and I'll catch somebody's eyes in the crowd or somebody come up, oh, I didn't know you like that. That's it's like, okay, so we are on the same wavelength. Another thing This is a little bit deeper, but it kind of ties in with what we're talking about. But so I just started. There's like these special parties that only like cater to a certain type of music. So like I've always grown up liking reggae music, and so now that like Afrobeat, like African, like Nigerian music and stuff like that, has kind of made its way to the States, and I found out about it. I'm like, man, I like this too. So I try to put on a straight up like all that type of music that kind of sounds like that. So like reggae music, reggaeton music, Afro beats, and stuff that sounds like that, and that's me. Now I know a friend of mine who has an emo night. So a lot of like punk rock music and stuff like that, dope, but I don't know a lot of it to go in there and play that type of music. So that's like one of the trends where if it's emo nights are big now, All right, cool, I'm gonna go and play an emo night and try to make some money. Well, I probably know like 20 songs. That's not gonna get me anywhere. Now what? I try to follow a trend and I look like a fraud or whatever. But like I said, you can't let what's hot right now influence you. What speaks to you, what do you connect with, and what fits you, and then if you feel like you can take it in and add it to what you are and roll with it. That's something that you don't feel like down the line you're gonna say, that was cool back then, but I'm not with it now.
Yeah.
So.
Like a lot of people scrolling through their time hop, like, ooh, wait a minute. I love how this conversation has been developing, because I mean, there's very few times where like I have a thought process in how the conversation would go and it would follow the trend perfectly, because we've touched on a whole bunch, but we've just kind of we're talking about the influences, what influences what, and this is not planned, by the way. Charles asked that on his own, but we've mentioned about taking some pieces. I wrote down, take what you want, leave the rest, right? Yeah. And take what fits with you.
Trend to blend.
And you've even, we're gonna lock that in, trend to blend. But you've even alluded to the fact of like, hey, when you're playing a song that you like and you catch eyes with somebody in the crowd and like, oh, you like this. Or when you start walking, you mentioned swag. The reason why Charles probably has the swag is because he likes what he was wearing. Of course he likes what he's wearing, and he picked it. For him, not for anybody else. So what does it look like when somebody fully embraces their brand, or even what you mentioned, like they might be laughing with me, they might be laughing at me, but I don't care because I'm laughing too.
I think it generates a magnetism. It's almost hard to look away. You want to identify where that magic is. Can I have some of that magic? Is it a hat? Is it a song? Is it a swag? What is that about that individual, brand, song, product? What is it about it that has that gravity to it that's pulling me in? I mean, that's the science in marketing and in getting your information out there, is finding ways to captivate a consumer or captivate an audience. And a lot of it is, that je ne sais quoi, that magic that only really happens when it's authentic. And we can smell bullshit,
Yeah.
We can smell bullshit.
Yeah.
And it's really easy, I think, nowadays, because we're exposed to so much and we're exposed to so many people, and we've had a chance to smell bullshit once and not another time. So it's in that sense, I think it's actually really good that there's that much out there, and if you're an aware enough person, you can kind of train yourself to know what's right for you and what's not right for you. But yeah, I think it's that magic is really, it's just something about that. What makes it special? That's the cool part.
I've something I say to my wife. She'll come out. We'll get ready to go somewhere. She'll put on an outfit. All right. She'll come out. How does this look? And she thinks she has me figured out. Maybe she does. I don't know. If I don't give her the exact look or the exact reaction, she'll say, "You don't like it." She'll go back and change. Well, sometimes I don't know. I might be watching TV and I don't, give her my full attention, you know what I mean? But I really like what she has on. But this is what I started doing. And it really ties in what we're talking about. It's like, how does this look? How do you feel? That's what I ask her. I say, how do you feel?
Great question to ask.
How do you feel? How does it make you feel? And then she'll she'll answer her own question. Well, I think I like it. It feels great. It fits. Perfect. Let's do it. You know what I mean? So when it comes down to these, to about building your brand, like, you know, and if I have somebody like you come down and you say, this is what you need to do for your brand. And yeah, I don't know if this is kind of your approach. You know, you can let me know, but like, if I were you, I would say, this is what you need to do with your brand. How comfortable do you feel with all of this? Because don't do anything you're not comfortable with, because there'd be some of that bullshit you smell.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So I would say I'm cool with all of these. These two I'm not really sure with. You know, I don't feel comfortable with that. Maybe you could help me. If we can't get it right, then, then I won't do it. You know, I don't know. Kind of like an example. The TikTok videos. All right. So you know, there's so many levels to TikTok or whatever, but the choreographed dance moves. Okay. So with that, I'm not really comfortable doing that. I feel like I look like I would not look right doing that. But if I were to go on TikTok and you say, hey, do some DJ moves, I want you to do a DJ trick with your turntables every day on TikTok. All right, cool, I can do that. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Playing in your own realm.
Yeah,
kind of.
but like, how do you feel?
Playing
like,
to your strengths.
Yeah, how would this make you feel if you were to do this? Because, you know, if it doesn't make you feel good, you're not going to keep it up, and you're not going to build your brand, because you're going to stop doing it, or you're going to look dumb doing it, or, you know.
Well, you hit on something that I want to mention when it comes to brand, and a lot of it is consistency. You can't be shiny object. You can't be like trend over here, trend over here, trend over here. I'm going to try this, or that didn't work, I'm going to go over here. You really have to invest yourself and your time to commit to see if it really works, not just for you, not just for the brand, but for the consumer. I mean, there's a lot of things that play into that, and a lot of it's just patience. If you're loving it and it's not getting exactly what you're wanting in that moment, that's okay.
Yeah.
Keep doing it, because if you're doing something that's a bit radical or outside of the box, but it's not catching on, that doesn't mean that it's not going to. It just means that not enough people have digested it or kind of accepted it, or, you know, it's a world we live in where there's a lot of different distractions. So I think a lot of people can turn off when they're not exactly aligning with something. But if you're consistently bringing the same message that you like and that you really think is correct to your product, there's something to say for that, like letting it live.
Yeah. The reality of, if 99% of the people in this world don't like you, in a world of billions, you still have over 1 million people that like you. You know what I mean?
I only have 1 million followers.
But Ted, I think y'all walked like the full circle, Ted. You asked the question, he explained it, but Nate said it. It's not, because it's not look. You said look, but the way he explained it, and then Nate said feel. It's how you feel.
Yeah.
So, and then you get back to the bullshit quotient. If you look the way you want to look, the way you want to look, you feel good. And when you walk in a room, people feel you.
Totally.
They feel it. And people feel bullshit. Like, I can tell when you're out of your element. You're a fish out of water, that's not you. Okay, I know it when you walk in.
Yeah.
It's a 5-minute conversation. I'm like, he's real uncomfortable at this very moment. And then you walked it all the way around, like you said, back to what you said. For most products, and there are some exceptions, you know, like maybe if you're a DJ and you just look, man, I need gigs, I can play, I will try to play anything you want to play. Maybe that's a different idea, different thought process for the way you want to build your business, which is different for everybody. But I feel like, you know, one thing, so as a financial advisor, right, I 100% do not want to be tight pants, well, I wear the tight pants, but the tight tie, the oversized suit. Who do you think of when you see a financial advisor? It's not me, but guess what? That's not who I want to be. So after going through with this guy uses a coach, after going through finding my target audience, looking at my business plan from the amount of money I want to make, scaling back, blah, blah, blah. Dude, I need 100 to 200 people who like me and the way I do business and the way I am to run my business the way I want to run it.
Yeah.
That's it. I don't have to make everybody happy.
That's right.
That doesn't mean I'm in their way. That doesn't mean I'm causing harm. But I'm happy, comfortable, safe, confident in who the hell I am and the way I run my business, and I know I provide a quality service. So I'm going to exude that confidence in our conversation. You're going to feel the confidence when we start talking. When you sit down with me, as long as we're on the same level, we have the same type of vibe, and then we start talking about products and services after that are easy. Are easy, right? When you go in a club and the club already has that vibe right now, you're kind of like, oh yeah, I'm gonna love it in here. The set is easy. playing music is easy after that. And that's the same thing I feel like that works in the universe. When somebody's watching you on Fox and they already jive with Ted Payton as a person, delivering news to that person is easy because they receive it.
Right.
And I think that's what people miss out on. You can't be all things to everybody.
Right.
You can't fake it and make it. You gotta be you, and your audience will come to you.
That was one of the things when I first started my business that people were like, well, first of all, they didn't know what PR was and still don't. So I find it to be actually a good thing versus a bad thing because I get to make my definition. It's how I say PR is from my perspective. But people would ask me, can you really make a whole company and have employees just doing PR? You're not going to do social media. You're not going to do ad buys. You're not going to do Google AdWords. You're not going to do this, that, and the other. And I'm like, well, I don't know anything about that stuff. Why would I do that? I'm going to do what I know I am phenomenal at. And there's not a lot of things in this world that I know I can say beyond a shadow of a doubt that I'm fucking great at. But PR is. And I was told from an early age in my career that I was naturally adept to it. I think it has to do with writing. It has to do with being, I love people and I love seeing things to fruition. I love seeing something have that like moment of like, we did it. We did our segment with Ted, or we finished an event that got a lot of coverage. I think it's really finding those, whether it's a brand or an individual, it's finding that I'm fucking great at this. And that I don't care what you think of me. I don't care if you don't like my swag, if you don't like my company. I do, and I know I'm damn good at it. So it's another thing I can put my head on my pillow for.
Confidence.
Yeah,
Confidence.
but not about everything though.
Yeah, but I say confidence because, and we can kind of end with this point. I want to give you guys one more chance to wrap it up. But what you kind of just expertly described there was I was talking to a friend and they were having a hard time at work. I said, well, what gives you confidence?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times if we're stuck doing something that we're not good at or we don't feel competent in, it breaks us down internally.
It's awful.
And there's some people who might be watching right now who think like, oh, what am I good at? I'm not good at anything. It's amazing if you find one thing you're good at that you identify yourself with, you then gain confidence in other realms.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that, hey, if you're a great piano player, you're going to be a great football player.
Right.
But if you're a great piano player...
No, I guarantee that is not the case.
Exactly. Well, there's an NFL football player out there that tickles some keys, I'm sure.
Well, as a former middle school cellist, I was not good at football, and I tried both.
Fair enough. But when you are confident in that realm, you can walk into a room knowing that there's something you're good at.
Right.
There's something that you're competent in, and it gives you value.
Yeah.
So all that, actually, like I mentioned before, this conversation kind of going in the exact direction I expected it to, for anybody that's watching and lost and might not know what their brand is. And I know we talked a lot about company branding, we talked a lot about personality, but really we're talking about finding yourself.
I think that's what it boils down to.
And just living your truth.
Yeah.
I think we got like 2-3 minutes left in the show. What are, I guess, some last tidbits I want to hear from each person on somebody that might be watching that needs to hear how to live their truth? I'd love for you guys just to air it out.
I've always been curious, like when I look at a celebrity or an author or a journalist, and something about them, I'm attracted to them in some way, about their work. I like to investigate it a bit more. Like, what were their tools? What were their challenges? And a lot of times you can relate those back to you, and then you can experiment. Like you can try some of the things that writer or writers are big for me. They've always been, and so I love memoirs. I love going through and like knowing, like, or an autobiography, like knowing this person wrote it about themselves. This is the most honest that they're going to get. And if they tried this to get to Z, and Z worked for them, and Z is where I'd like to be, you know, I aspire to be like them. Why not try what they did? So that's something that I would recommend.
Absolutely.
I want to say, so when I started DJing, I had a factory job, okay, and so once I started making money DJing, I quit my factory job, essentially working for myself now, which I feel like a lot of people, I think a lot of people, you know, they want to know what it feels like to work for yourself. You know, it's scary, but you know that's what I did. But if I were to conform to something that's going on right now, or see a trend that's popping, and if I go straight to that trend and try to go all in on it, then I don't work for myself anymore. I work for a trend, which is just as worse as working for a person.
Amen.
And so, I always, being yourself, staying true to yourself, being yourself, is always gonna. I feel like it'll make you happy in the end, whether you succeed or you fail. If you fail, it's like I failed doing exactly what I wanted to do.
Exactly.
And not going out here and trying to be something that I'm not, and then I failed. You'll hate yourself forever.
I like to use the term pivot instead of fail.
Okay.
So you get to a point, it didn't work, you pivot.
Yeah.
Get to a point, didn't work, you pivot. But if you're doing it with authenticity, like you're saying, and if you're doing it in a way that you're like, I love this and I'm good at it, you're never gonna fail. You learn that didn't work, so you pivot, you go somewhere else.
I'm a swerve.
Yeah, smart.
They say when you market, you learn, right? That's the thing. You don't fail at marketing. You learn. You learn. Okay, that's not it. So I'm gonna go over here. I hired a coach. He told me that. So and Nate just messed me up because he talked about a lot of things that I think I used to be victim of that I thought through for anything. Being a slave to the culture. You're not you. You're whatever you think the culture is doing, and that's super fake. And as males, we've heard the term before. Go out on your sword. Don't go out on your sword. Go out on your terms, doing what you want to do. And at the end of the day, it's like I tell kids about working and working hard. At least you know. At least you know you went out and you tried, and now you don't have to wonder what if I would have done my thing.
What
and
ifs are
worked.
terrible.
And then the back end. So I feel like we're talking about two things here, trying to bring it all together. We're talking about your history and figuring out who you are, and be staying true to that in your future. It is okay because we're talking about growth. Modern Man is all about growth, and we're talking about growing and moving forward. Growth is change, so it's okay to change. Just don't let the change who you are.
Ooh. Ooh. Well,
Put
you
that
guys
in a
killed
fortune
me.
cookie.
See, why do I have to follow up with that?
I'm about to take my mic off. I ain't saying nothing.
All right, yeah, mic off.
To all of you watching, make sure you find yourself and make sure you're unapologetically yourself. True story, it's amazing when you said, I am different and that's okay. Because I used to always ask, why don't I fit in? Until I found out I'm supposed to stand out. And that's been the best gift ever. So whoever you are, be yourself unapologetically. You know who those people are where you gravitate to them and you see them just being themselves unapologetically and you want it? Well, that is what it means to know your brand, live your brand, and stay true to your guns. As Nate, David, and Charles all fed back into you guys today, talking about who influences who. Take those influences, leave the rest. And just because you find the truth doesn't mean you want it. Dude, that hit. Because there's a lot of men watching, myself included, being part of this, who have had things that they find out about themselves. When you really dig deep and you reflect, you don't like everything you find. But that's okay, because you still have to love your imperfect self. Guys, I hope you find your true self and you live unapologetically and impact others to do the same. And as always, thank you for watching, and go out there and be a modern man.